News Talk 94.5 WPTI, 96.7 FM WTOB. And you're listening to the Wealth Guardian Show with Doug Ray, helping you to retire the job, keep that paycheck. Hey, Brice, how you doing this wonderful spring morning?
I am doing great, Doug. Hope you are.
Can't complain a bit.
Oh, how are your brackets turning out so far?
I am dead last in the office. Even my wife is beating me.
I am first. Even though my Auburn got knocked out immediately, and that was who I had taking it all the way. So, but whatever. Anyway, two housekeeping items here before we get going with today's topic: retirement planning is harder than it used to be, and why. Doug, let's go ahead and take care of the Wealth Guardian Service Salute. I'll give you the honors.
Absolutely. Yeah, every show we open up and we salute and pay respects to all of our veterans, our service members, our first responders. Thank you so much, and especially to your family, because that's a sacrifice you're making for all of us.
Amen. Thank you for that. And the second housekeeping item that we've got to take care of before we get into the meat and potatoes of the show is the question that we ask ourselves to better get to know your Wealth Guardian's financial advisor. And the question we're going to ask ourselves this morning, might as well ask you out there as well. Doug, what seemingly random subject do you know a lot about?
Well, I think two I can think of. The first one being technical analysis of the stock market, and the second one being numismatics.
What is numismatics for everyone out there?
That is basically the study and hobby of coin collecting.
Ah, very good. Very good. Okay, so the market and coins. I sense a theme going on there. All right.
It's about money, isn't it?
It's always about money. And so, Brice, what seemingly random subject do you know a lot about? I have been fascinated for decades over the disappearance of Amelia Earhart and her co-pilot or her navigator, Fred Noonan. So I have followed the updates and the research that have gone on trying to locate that. And I am one of those ones who does believe that her plane will eventually be found right off the atoll called Nikamaruru.
Wow.
But we will see. We will see if history proves me right and all of the others at TIGA are on that right. All right, well, let's go ahead and start talking about our main subject here. Retirement planning is harder than it used to be. So, Doug, every generation always likes to talk about how much harder things used to be when they were kids. Like all the people used to have to walk 5 miles to school uphill in the snow both ways. But they had at least one thing that was easier than what we have it now, and that was retirement planning. So, I don't think our grandparents, even a lot of our parents, had retirement planners. Mm-hmm. So that is a job, an occupation, a career that has, I think, come into its own over the last, 40 years?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe 50. So we want to talk about the differences here between, just talking about why it's harder to plan for retirement than it used to be. So let's talk about the first one, job stability and company loyalty. There used to be, back in the day, very common for somebody to work 40, 50 years for the same company.
Oh, yeah.
And when you left the company, whether it was you moving out or they kicking you out, that was a huge deal back then. That was really a life-changing event. Now, not so much. Talk about how that might play into retirement planning.
Well, here in the Piedmont area, we grew up in the business of textiles. And we've got lots of clients who spent 30, 40 years with R.J. Reynolds, Haynes,
Yep.
companies like that. And, they were very loyal to those companies, and those companies were very loyal to them. Not so much anymore. It's not unusual, as a business owner, when I look at somebody's resume coming in, it's not unusual to see a resume that has a job change every year or 18 months.
Right.
And back in the day, if you saw that, you'd steer away from that person because that's a job hopper.
Right.
But that's pretty common now.
It's much more common than it used to
especially
be.
amongst younger folks.
Right. And the pension plans or the guaranteed benefit plans that mostly no longer exist in the private sector, that was probably the main leg of your retirement stool. what money you were getting from a pension was almost more significant than what you would be getting from Social Security.
Right.
Now it doesn't even exist. So
Right.
that does make things tougher. Absolutely. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Wealth Guardian Show with Doug Ray. I'm Brice Payne, sitting in the studio this morning with Doug Ray, and we are talking about retirement planning is harder than it used to be and the various reasons why. So we talked about job stability and company loyalty. Let's talk about the next one here, Doug. Housing market stability. Now that's changed a little bit. In particular, I mean, we don't want to focus on the short term, but I think what's happened in the last few years is a huge example of that.
Well, yeah, I'm your poster child for this. Having moved up here from Charlotte, we're building a house, and you talk about sticker shock. I mean, my gosh. Yeah, I mean, the housing market, the stability there is, well, first off, we know there's an inventory shortage. People that refinanced several years ago got 2 and 3% mortgages. They don't want to leave. Obviously, why? You know, it's almost free money. But the price of real estate has just skyrocketed since COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, even existing properties have gone up, especially in the resort areas of the mountains and the beaches.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just nuts how pricey they are.
Absolutely. And, you know, it used to be that your home was an asset that, well, I don't know how I want to say what I'm trying to say here, but your home was an asset. And today it is, help me out here, Doug. Today, the house that you have, how am I trying to say this?
Well, I think, you know, working with our clients, and they're retired, they want to have a paid off house.
Yes.
It is stability for them.
Yes.
It's their foundation. It's what they live in.
Right.
And it's important to have that home.
Yes.
You know, if you've lived there for 20 years, 30 years, or 5 years, it doesn't matter. It is stability.
It is.
It's a part of your being and your family.
Right, right. Yeah, getting it paid off, that was almost unheard of, that you wouldn't have it paid off by retirement back, 50 years ago when our parents were around, or our grandparents were around. Of course, it was paid off by retirement time. Now we see about 50% of our clients coming to us don't have it paid off by the time that they retire.
Still have a mortgage.
And there's an added extra monkey wrench in the works with homes and real estate is reverse mortgages.
Mm-hmm.
That only came into existence during the Reagan era. So before that wasn't even a word. And not that we advocate for them or against them. They can make sense in certain situations, absolutely. They're not as, I want to say, corrupt as a lot of people think that they are.
Right.
There was some redesigning of them after they first came into existence that worked in the buyers or the homeowners benefit, but that just muddies up the waters on what the housing market, what real estate can mean in your portfolio. Reverse mortgages, for some people, it's essential.
It is absolutely.
All right. Well, you know what, Doug? Speaking of the essentials, and there's a lot of different types of investments, real estate being one of them, that people just don't know how to navigate. And that's one of the things that a financial planner can help them do, is figure out, one, what their portfolio allocation should look like, and where does real estate, where does the primary residence fit into that? Does income become generated out of any investments that you have, any real estate investments, whatever other kind? A financial planner helps them out with their clients out with figuring out what their portfolio should look like, but not just that, what their distribution strategy or what their account structuring strategy should be, so that whatever growth they're getting off their accounts, they're keeping as much of that for themselves and out of Uncle Sam's hands as possible. And that's really what we specialize here in for the Wealth Guardians, is helping our clients who are approaching retirement or just entering retirement figure out, navigate all these things that we're talking about, why retirement planning is so complicated, figuring out what are the right moves to make, what are the wrong moves to make, whether that comes in choosing your lump sum pension or income off of your pension, what filing strategy you might want to use off of Social Security, whether or not you should have more money in IRA buckets or Roth buckets, and then when you're taking distributions, in what years do you take from which of those buckets? That's what we do at the Wealth Guardians for our clients. And I want to give everyone out there the opportunity to sit down with us and see if we can help you navigate through your retirement, whether that's just starting or still a few years off. Our phone number is 336-391-3409. That's 336-391-3409. You can also visit us at our website at thewealthguardians.com. It doesn't cost to sit down with us. There's no obligation to sit down with us. We just want to see if the services and expertise that we provide might be a good fit for what your needs and goals are in retirement. So, having said all that, the phone number one more time, 336-391-3409. We'd look forward to sitting down with you. What else we'd look forward to is seeing if we can stump Doug this week on the trivia question. All right. Doug, are you ready?
If it's got anything to do about basketball, you're probably going to stump me.
Nope, not basketball. All right. Doug, on March 30th, 1981, President Ronald Reagan was shot. He was the sixth president to be shot while in office, but only the second to survive having been shot. There was Lincoln in 1865. He passed away. Garfield, 1881. McKinley, 1901. And Kennedy, 1963. All died from their injuries. But besides Reagan, who was the other president who was shot and survived?
Okay.
While holding office. So let's go ahead and go to our break and see if we stumped Doug on the other side of this break. This is Brice Payne. With me is Doug Ray in the hot seat. And the show is The Wealth Guardians, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. Stick around. We'll be right back. This is News Talk 94.5 WPTI. This is 96.7 FM WTOB. News Talk 94.5 WPTI. 96.7 FM WTOB. You're listening to The Wealth Guardian Show with Doug Ray, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. I'm Brice Payne, along with Doug Ray in the studio this morning. And in this second segment, we're going to continue our conversation around retirement planning. Why is it harder than it used to be? Now, before we get to our trivia question and see if we stumped Doug, I've got two questions for you. A, are you looking forward to your retirement? I ask you that week in and week out, and I know the answer is yes. And B, do you want to make sure you're making the best financial decisions for your retirement? Well, I know you answered yes in the past. I suspect that answer hasn't changed. So you did answer yes to both those questions. Then I have got great news for you. We here at the Wealth Guardians offer a no-cost, no-obligation second opinion/review of your retirement plan. This is going to include a deep analysis of your assets, your investment portfolio, your insurance policies, your income needs, risk tolerance, risk exposure, tax mitigation strategies, legacy goals, and the fees that you are currently paying. So here's our goal. We want to help you lower your fees. We want to help you align your risk and improve your overall retirement picture so that you can indeed retire the job and keep the paycheck. But here's the catch. The ball is in your court. You have to give us a call. Our phone number is this, 336-391-3409. 336-391-3409. Give us a call or visit us at thewealthguardians.com to set up your financial plan review with Doug, Garrett, and myself today. The markets aren't going to wait for you. Okay, let's go ahead and get to our trivia question. Doug, on March 30th, 1981, President Ronald Reagan was shot. Do you remember where you were that day?
Absolutely.
I do as well. I was in fourth grade when that happened.
I was actually in aviation officer candidate school in Pensacola, and of course, you know, those military programs, you don't have access to TV and radio, and our lead drill instructor, Gunnery Sergeant Welcher, called all of us out of the battalion and told us about the president being shot, and that it looked pretty grim at the time.
Yeah, it did, sure did. All right, well, Ronald Reagan, when he was shot, he became the sixth president to be shot while in office, but only the second to survive having been shot. We have Lincoln, Garfield, McKinley, and Kennedy all died from their injuries from being shot. But besides Reagan, Doug, who was the other president who was shot and survived?
Well, I was going to say Garfield, but you just ruined it for me. So.
Garfield was one of the ones who passed. I think he lived for 8 days.
Yeah. I don't know, Brice.
All right. And so, Brice, did you know the answer to this? Nope. Full disclosure, I did not know the answer to this. It was actually Theodore Roosevelt.
Oh.
In 1932, he was president-elect. He was actually survived. That was his second assassination attempt when he was running for president in 1912. He survived an assassination attempt then as well. So he is the only other president beside Ronald Reagan who was shot in office and survived. I did not know that.
I didn't either.
So
I did know that dude was tough as nails.
that was, yes, absolutely. Yep. So, just a little bit of that American history trivia that we like to throw out here. Let's continue now with our retirement planning is harder than it used to be. Doug, we talked in the first segment about job stability and company loyalty and how that's a little bit different, how the housing market stability is different than it used to be. Let's now talk about simpler investment landscape. There are some options out there to invest in that just did not exist decades ago, and that makes the waters all the muddier for somebody trying to have a proper portfolio allocation.
Yeah, when I when I got started in the business, there was stocks, bonds, mutual funds, obviously real estate, that kind of thing. But now we've got all kinds of things. I mean, there's Delaware statutory trusts for real estate investors. There's structured notes that we can invest our clients in. So yeah,
Market linked CDs,
Yes.
cryptocurrency, options trading.
they've even got ETFs now for cryptocurrency.
Yes.
So it's amazing what people can invest in now.
Yes, so that again just makes it a bit harder to navigate when you're trying to put together the proper portfolio for yourself. Doug, you mentioned mutual funds in there. Boy, you and I could have an entire radio show on how we are not big fans of mutual funds, how cookie cutter they tend to be, the costs that are
Well, the
associated
fees
with
are
them.
sky high in
right.
a lot of them.
Right, the fees, they're convenient and they're designed for people who don't know a lot about investing, but you pay for that convenience.
Mutual funds are great for younger investors who can put 25 or 50 bucks every pay period in one.
Right. Right. But we have our ideas on what a proper portfolio should look like in retirement, and mutual funds do not play a role in that. All right, let's go to the next one, Doug. Higher interest rates. Talk about this. We have seen for decades really low interest, well, not decades, over a decade, really low interest rates. They're starting to come back up now, or in the last year and a half, 2 years. In fact, because of that, the $1,000 bond that you bought 2 years ago is worth $500 today. So that certainly throws things into chaos, but a little bit different than what interest rates looked like back in the 80s.
Bryce, when I started in this business at Merrill Lynch in '88, we had a 10% money market.
Completely liquid.
Completely liquid, paying 10%. People would kill for that right now.
What were your mortgage rates back then, though?
Oh, golly. They were pretty high. I remember our first house we bought when I'd just gotten out of flight school in the Navy was 15.5% mortgage.
Isn't that amazing?
Oh,
wow.
it's nuts.
Yeah,
But, it's not that high now, but it's getting up there.
it sure is.
I mean, my wife and I are building a house now. We've got a construction loan at 9%.
Yep.
Hopefully we can roll it into a mortgage around 6 or 7 at the end of the deal. But, interest rates are higher. Now, that's a good thing for savers.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
they can go out and get 5% CDs now. Which
Absolutely.
You couldn't see. You hadn't seen that in 20 some odd
No,
years.
not at all. Not at all. And how quickly it changed.
Yes.
I mean, we saw the Fed kicking up interest rates consecutively quarter after quarter for what, a year and a half, 2 years there, the highest, the fastest?
It was the fastest rate increase in the Fed's history of 110 years.
Yeah, yeah. But boy, interest rates definitely, when they change, your retirement strategy changes, and it can certainly make things a bit more complicated. Let's go on to the next one, Doug. More contributors to Social Security. Now, this Social Security came into existence in the late 20s, early 30s, and it was designed for somebody to live out the last maybe 5 years of their life.
Right.
So that they weren't out on the street, because people just weren't doing enough saving for retirement through their working years. The image of what Social Security does for us today is not completely, but is very different than what it looked like when it first started out. And it's also a little bit different on how we rely on it compared to how our grandparents relied on it. Talk about how Social Security has changed a little bit for its contributors.
Well, Social Security has been one of my favorite topics for years. I've been giving workshops and lectures on Social Security for probably a good 15 years now.
And we here at the Wealth Guardians are certified with the National
Yeah.
Social Security Association, I'll add.
And by the way, I'll just add this, coming up in May, you'll hear more about it, but we're going to have another couple workshops on Social Security. You know, it's an important thing to have. Back in the day, like you said, it was essentially to keep people out of poverty. And they didn't expect you to be on Social Security very long. Life expectancies back then, well, I think, you're eligible for Social Security at 65, and I think life expectancy was 65.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So, yeah, you can see that they didn't expect you to be on it. Well, now you can get Social Security at 62, and people are living well into their 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
So you're on it for a long time. Here's what else complicates things today. Back then, when Social Security first was brought to the scene, we had about 10 or 12 workers for every retiree.
Right.
Now the ratio is like 3 to 1.
3 to 1.
Yeah. So you don't have nearly enough people funding the system as is taking money out of the system.
And you know, we have a cartoon here at the offices that shows how Social Security really is a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say it's a scheme, but it is that the people who are currently in it are the ones paying for those who have now retired.
Well, the private sector could never finance anything
No,
like that.
no,
You know?
that would be illegal.
Yeah, it would.
So yeah, so that has Social Security's definitely gotten more complicated. Now, back in the day, our grandparents would simply file for Social Security whenever they retired, whether that was at 62 or 65 or 70, and it was just as soon as you retired, you filed for Social Security and you got your benefits. Now there's widow's benefits, there's ex-spousal benefits, there's file and restrict.
There's disability benefits.
There's disability benefits. So there is a number of different ways to file that you really want to make sure that you're navigating that correctly. And that's one of the things that we do here at the Wealth Guardians is help our clients make sure that they are not just navigating, say, their investments correctly, but every decision that they're making a large decision that they're making when it comes to finances around the household, that's what we help them analyze and make sure that they're doing it in the right way so that their nest egg stays as large as possible. They can spend whatever amount of money that, on a monthly, annual basis that they want to spend, and keeping as much of that money out of Uncle Sam's hands as possible.
Exactly.
And that's what we do. So let me give you our number. If you would like some professional help like that, and you would like it ideally at no cost and no obligation, well, hey, then you're listening to the right radio show this morning, because that's exactly what we provide at the Wealth Guardians. You can come in and sit down with us. We'll get an overall view of what your retirement picture looks like, and we will help you figure out what you need to do, what things you need to change, whether it's portfolio allocation, whether it's tax mitigation strategies, risk on your portfolio. We'll help you figure it out. We'll help you navigate that so that you are making the overall best decisions. Whatever your goals and objectives are in retirement, you get to tell us what those are, and we'll help you make the best decisions that you can to get and accomplish those goals. But you got to give us a call and sit down with us. So here's our phone number, 336-391-3409. Let me give that to you again, 336-391-3409. The key words here are no cost, no obligation. We are retirement income certified professionals. We know what the landscape of retirement looks like, and we know how to get you on the easiest path to your retirement goals. You can also visit us at our website, thewealthguardians.com, and you can set up a meeting with us there. Our offices are located in Clemens. We're not if you're listening to us on this radio show, we are not far from where you're at. So again, 336-391-3409. Doug, you want to add anything to all of that?
Yeah, we also have a podcast called The Vault. It's
Oh.
on the YouTube Wealth Guardians channel. So a lot of good information there. Pull it up and take a look.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this radio show right now on the radio, we actually video record these, and they're available. If you want to see Doug and me in action, or Garrett and Doug in action, then tune into our radio show as well, and The Vault. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have this week. Thank you for joining us. We hope the rest of your weekend is everything you want it to be. This is Brice Payne, along with Doug Ray, the show's The Wealth Guardians, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. And remember, sound financial plans do not create themselves. This is News Talk 94.5 WPTI. This is 96.7 FM WTOB.